That opening statement, did I say, or was that Andrew? I've already forgotten. Andrew. Okay, so Andrew will open, and that means Andrew will close with a 2-minute closing statement. He'll be last. So Andrew first, then Michael. Then we're going to ask a few questions, and the Denver Young Dems were helpful. I'd also like to thank the many people who emailed me questions, and with 100 questions, I'll be happy if I get to 5 or 6. There'll be some limited rebuttals, and the moderator is going to be limited in terms of asking follow-up questions. Then the candidates will make a 2-minute closing statement, and then that will be the end of the debate. We only have 45 minutes by agreement of the candidates, and the other agreement was imposed by both parties. I'm not allowed to ask any tough questions. So that's it. So we're going to start with Mr. Romanoff giving his 3-minute timed opening statement. And again, I want to thank Andrew and Michael for being here today. Mr. Speaker, are you ready?
Thanks, Aaron. Thank you all very much for coming, and a special thanks to the Young Dems for making this forum available. I think Michael and I are both at least 8 or 10 years past the cutoff age to be Young Dems, but I promise not to make an issue of my opponent's even more advanced age in the course of this campaign. So I do want to say how much I respect Senator Bennet. I think he is a good person, and I hope our friendship outlasts this effort as well. Like a lot of good people, unfortunately, he is trapped in a dysfunctional system that is desperately in need of reform. Those aren't my words. They were Evan Bayh's. He said, even at a time of enormous challenge, the people's business is not being done. We all know Washington is broken. What we need, and what I bring to this race, are the courage and commitment to fix it. Millions of Americans are losing our jobs, our homes, our health coverage, and our savings. Yet the U.S. Senate, which is supposed to be the greatest deliberative body in the world, has become a place where good ideas go to die. It's become a wholly owned subsidiary of the industries it is supposed to be regulating. It's a country club where only the richest and most powerful can pay to play. Part of changing that culture, another member of the Senate once said, is recognizing that special interests, the insurance companies, the banks, the drug companies, the HMOs, have come to dictate the agenda in Washington. And the only way that you break out of that, this senator said, is to stop taking money from political action committees like I have so that ordinary people's voices are heard. I believe Senator Obama was right. And I am the only candidate in this race who is turning down the corporate cash that threatens to drown our democracy. My opponent says I can't win this way, but I think it's the only way a Democrat can win this year. It's the only way to restore public confidence in our political system. It's the only way to break the special interests' death grip on Washington. That takes leadership, and I know something about that too. I led the Democrats to our first majority in 30 years and our first back-to-back majority in more than 40 years. I led the way to an economic recovery plan that dug our state out of its last recession. I led the fight against insurance companies that were refusing to honor their customers' valid claims. And I led our state to pass the most significant investment in school construction in the history of Colorado. This year, it's not enough just to send a senator back to Congress. We need to send a leader, and we need to send a message. My victory in this race, our victory, will be loud enough, even for Washington to hear.
Thank you, Andrew. Senator Bennet, your opening statement, please.
Thank you, Aaron, and I'd like to thank the Young Dems as well, and all of you for being interested enough in our democracy to be here tonight. I'm very, very grateful, and I look forward to the conversation we're going to be having, a conversation that, for me, that extends the town hall meetings and countless meetings that I've had in living rooms all across the state over the last year, where I've met with people time and time again who are completely discouraged by the conversation that's going on in the Senate floor back in Washington, or what they're seeing play out on their cable television sets at night, I completely agree with everything Andrew said about the dysfunction in Washington and the fact that the Senate is broken. It's very important for us to construct a politics that moves past that discussion. People don't recognize the challenges they're facing in that conversation, and we have a lot of work to do. Even before we were driven into the worst recession since the Great Depression, we were already in trouble. The last 10 years, the last period of economic growth in this country's history was the first time our economy grew and middle-class family income went down. The first time our economy grew and working families' income went down in Colorado by $800, while the cost of health insurance went up by 97%, the cost of higher education went up by 50%. We've created no net new jobs in the United States since 1998, and household wealth is the same at the end of the decade as it was at the beginning of the decade. And when George Bush became president of the United States, we led the world in college degrees. Today we're 15th. You know, it was only about 18 months ago that we nominated, not far from here, a lot of you were probably there, our president, right here in Denver, Colorado. And we were filled with hope at that time and filled with a desire to change this country at that time. A year into this job, I can tell you, we need it now more than ever. And now is not the time to give up fighting for health care with a public option. Now is not the time to give up fighting for jobs in Colorado or across this country, and now is the time to re-regulate Wall Street. I stand on my record the last year in the United States Senate and look forward to going back as your representative to make sure that we solve these challenges so we honor the legacy of our parents and grandparents and ensure that we're not leaving less opportunity rather than more to our kids and our grandkids. Thanks for being here tonight. Appreciate it.
You know, instead of any softball, easy warm-up questions, I think one of the biggest issues in a primary is asking and wanting to know the differences between the candidates. And Andrew, I'm going to start with you and ask the same question of Michael. If I'm a Democratic voter, whether it's going to the caucuses or in a primary election, why should I vote for you? Tell me the differences. Distinguish yourself from your opponent and convince me that I should cast my vote for you.
Well, if you like the way Washington works, you shouldn't. But most Americans, I think, are being ill-served by a Senate that has dragged its feet on so many important issues. The President has brought courage to the White House. The House has taken action. The Senate, unfortunately, as I said earlier, has become the place where a lot of those good ideas go to die. If I had been in the Senate last year, for example, I would not have voted for special backroom deals that benefited some states at the exclusion of others. It would have taken just one senator during that health care debate, a single senator in the majority party, to stand up when it counted, not after the fact, not after the deals were cut and the votes were passed, but when the senator from Nebraska said, I want to let the state off the hook for Medicaid. We needed some senator to stand up and say no. When the senator from Louisiana negotiated what some folks call another Louisiana purchase, somebody in the majority party could have said no. Not a single member did. If you want my vote, I would have said, it's not enough to cut deals for particular states. You need to do what's right for the United States. Take the pork out, put the public option back in, and remove the antitrust exemption for the insurance industry. That's the sort of leadership that I think is missing in the Senate. It's the leadership I'll bring if I'm elected.
Thank you. Michael, please.
Well, I would say on that I had a hard time hearing a distinction. I share Andrew's concerns about the backroom deals. In fact, I was the first Democrat, to my knowledge still the only Democrat, I'm not sure, to go to the floor and say that I wasn't happy about these backroom deals, that I wasn't happy that members of my own party held a public option hostage. I went on to say that other people were going to have to explain their votes. By the way, I don't feel the need to defend the Senate as an institution here tonight. I'm going to defend my record here tonight. And it was not after the vote was cast. It was before I cast my vote, because I went on to say that I'm voting, even though I think this bill is imperfect, because we have 850,000 uninsured people in Colorado who are going to be helped by this bill. I'm voting for this bill because it will give us a fighting chance at reducing costs for working families and small businesses in this state, that it would extend Medicare by 10 years, that it would have filled the prescription hole for seniors. So I can't stand the process as much as Andrew can't stand the process. And